Hey, I'm Ashley and welcome back to my channel. This is 5 more tips for brand new directors, so if you're interested in learning more about what I have to say about that, then keep on watching. Okay, so I've got some more right here. The first tip for this video is to find a mentor. I wish I would have done this so much sooner in my career, but I just didn't know to do that. And I was lucky to be surrounded by a lot of people who have been in it for a long time, and I was free to ask them questions and things like that. And I had keenly observed how people ran their programs, and I picked and choose things that I liked about how one person did something versus something I learned from somebody else. So I feel like I learned a lot in that sense, as most of us probably did with whoever taught us over time. But I think had I been more intentional about that, especially in regards to understanding the sheets, the drill design process, just designing a show to the sheets. The sheets are literally designed with the answers to the test. So you miss out on a lot if you don't think about creating a show in that regard. And, you know, I think that goes for our marching band and winter guard season. So finding a mentor, someone who has been in the game for longer than you have, is totally helpful. You're gonna run into something that they have dealt with time and time again, whether it's problems with sharing kids who are in other activities on campus or dealing with their parents. There's so many different things that come up that we need advice on when it comes to teaching our students. Best practices, things to avoid. I am trying to fill in that gap for you if you don't have a mentor, but if you have someone you can talk to on a regular basis, I think that is ideal. But at the very least, hopefully you're getting some kind of something from the videos that I'm putting out. So find a mentor. The next tip is to choreograph skills that are going to be achievable. The big thing to consider is that execution is key. Excellence is key, especially when it comes to doing well from a competitive standpoint. If it's not clean, you don't get credit for it. Doesn't matter how impressive it is, it doesn't matter how many kids were able to do it. If the entire ensemble did not achieve it, then it's too hard. You also have to keep in mind how much time you have to put into something. So if you only have 2 months to put on a show and you feel like they're still struggling with this fairly simple choreography that you've given them, then it's probably safe to say that you shouldn't make it much harder. You don't want to stress them out or yourself. You want to go out there and you want them to feel good about the product. Now, all that to say, sometimes you're gonna end up having a simpler show, but remember, make sure it's musical, make sure it's achievable. It's totally okay to repeat certain phrases, especially because within music, there are variations on different themes and things repeat in musical literature. So I think it's okay that we have the choreography that repeats. If that's what the music is doing, then it kind of makes sense that visually you can cut and paste there. It's totally okay. I think with that being said, I think it's a really great idea to throw in something a little challenging here and there, especially if they're in moments where they're not traveling and they're standstill. So throwing in a little bit of a bigger toss, maybe a trick, or even adding some body to something will kind of beef something up, making something a little more rhythmically complex. Those are things that you can do to give your kids a little bit more of a push and a stretch, and give them a couple weeks. I'd say probably, it depends on when your next performance is, but I'd say give them like at least 2 weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and see if it improves. If it's not there by the time, if it's not there within 3 weeks or 2 weeks, or, you know, you can play with that timeline. But I think anywhere between 2 and 3 weeks, if it's not there, take the hose to it, water it down. Clean, just keep things clean, keep things musical. You're welcome. Next thing is be clear and consistent about boundaries. What are the expectations you have for rehearsal? What are the expectations you have for performances? What are the expectations you have for anything else that kind of relates to your expectations of them? I can't think of a better word for that. But if you expect them to be at rehearsal 15 minutes before it starts, hold them to it. And you might need your leadership to help you on this part. But I mean, if they're not ready to go in warm-up block by the time it's, 5 p.m. or whenever you rehearse, have a clear and consistent reprimand consequence for that. So, if you need to run laps, or you're gonna have to stay late and do, I don't know, whatever it is that you and your band director agree on, just stay consistent. I know it gets really hard because once you jump into rehearsal, you're like, oh gosh, you're here, okay, jump on in. And then rehearsal's over, and then you forget, and then things get lost. Keep track of that stuff, because it's gonna come back to bite you in the butt if you don't stay consistent, okay? And that also goes with the expectations you have of their rehearsal etiquette. If they're supposed to always stand a certain way whenever a certain command is called, check, relax, no talking on the field, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to be a doormat either, but just be consistent. Neutral tone, straight to the point. Okay, this is the expectation I have of you. Set the expectation at the beginning. If you see them acting up, just let them know, hey, you were talking during rehearsal today, and you know that's a no-no, so you're gonna have to run a lap after rehearsal, or whatever the consequence is. The point is just to be consistent. I think on the note of boundaries, you should also keep in mind when sometimes you kind of fall into this trap of becoming their friend, especially for those of us who start off our teaching careers really young. I started when I was 19, just fresh out of high school. We're young, and we're just couple blinks older than they are, and there tends to be that kind of a blurred line, not a blurred line, but a tendency for them to be a little more relaxed, because they know that we're a certain age, or they can tell by the way that we dress, or maybe even talk, the way that we act. Just be clear about what that boundary is. I actually think I have that in another point. Yeah, that's my next point. But whatever the boundaries you have, the expectations you have, be upfront, be clear, and be consistent, okay? That's gonna help you so much in the long run. Next tip is you gotta be professional. At the end of the day, I think it is very important to keep in mind that what we do as color guard directors, instructors, coaches, what have you, we all have to do our part to make sure that people who are on the outside looking in, whether it's the community, parents, teachers, faculty, fellow colleagues, people need to see us as equals, as professionals. So, if you're on staff with the rest of the band directors who dress a certain way, who act a certain way because their job is to be a professional educator at their school, and so that comes with its own expectations. You expect a public school educator to act a certain way, especially as a parent, or even as a principal. you expect that of, they expect that of the band director. And so I think you should strive to also maintain a sense of professionalism. So just being mindful of what you post online, if your social media accounts are public or private, how, don't show up to rehearsal smelling like weed. Like, be mindful of how you come across. Think about how you dress and how you talk. Not to say that you need to show up like this straight-laced, like box. I don't know, I'm at a loss for words, but there needs to be a professional version of you, and then there is like the real version of you. And I think, obviously you want to represent your band program well, and you want to represent your directors well, and your program, your color guard program, and those types of things. But I think on a bigger, when you step back and you take a look at all of us, my hope is that we all do our part so that people take us seriously, because I think it's easy for people to fall into the camp where color guard is just like an afterthought. We don't spend time and money on it. It's not like it's kind of like a activity, a club at the school that's been pushed to the wayside. If you want people to take the sport seriously, you gotta act like it. And I think that kind of goes along with how you expect your students to act, and the same thing how they come across in the community at their school. When we perform, that sense of professionalism, I think, should bleed over into your program, in the sense that you want them just to be polished. Let's all make sure that we don't have raggedy equipment, and that we are all doing our hair, making sure that it's polished looking. I don't know, hairstyles and makeup and things like that tend to vary, but you want to look like you have some pride in your team. If you can get a really nice set of warm-ups that your group looks really good in, it can get, the matching tennis shoes and the bags and all that, I think that's great. If you can't, I am going to put out another video at some point. I'm going to add it to my little list. But I think there are some cost-effective ways to do that. But if that's not at the top of your list, you just want to make sure that they go out there and they look good, then, if all they have right now to wear is all black, just make sure we're not wearing baggy black pants, and make sure we look polished, and we, you know what I mean? Like, are you picking up what I'm putting down? I don't want to ramble on too much, but do your part. Do your part. My last tip is to have a plan to grow professionally, whether it's with your choreography, equipment and movement, whether it's your show design, your drill writing. A lot of us don't have the resources to outsource everything. A lot of us have to wear all those hats. And so continue to reach out to people that can help you grow in those various categories. And in fact, I have put together a little freebie for you, and I'll have the link in the description. But basically, if you're interested in growing as a choreographer, as a movement educator, teaching choreography and dance composition and all that, teaching improvisation was like my favorite thing to teach. I absolutely love it. So I've got one of my favorite improvisation exercises for you on my website, and it's free. You can go and grab it. You can You can use it on yourself or you can use it with your students, but feel free to steal that and use it as a jumping off point to kind of help reinvent your choreographer skills. Yeah, and on that note, if you want to continue, if you want to be a part of a community that continues to grow and benefits from productive discussion around this topic, I've got a Facebook group, and I'll also link that in the description. It's called Color Guard Professional Development Community, and my goal there is exactly that, is to use everyone's collective skills and wisdom and share it with each other. My goal is to make content like this to help brand new instructors just like you. And so if you could help me by liking this video, sharing it, giving a comment below, that way more people like you come across it in their YouTube algorithm, that would be amazing. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.